Umar Marvi's story is one of the most popular stories in Sindh. Many poets have composed it. It is said that in the 16th century a group of Sindhi bards artistically narrated and sung this story before Mughal Emperor Akbar, who had himself been born in Amarkot. He inquired about it from Mirza Jani Beg, the then conquered ruler of Sindh. It is said that this story was first composed in Persian by Syed Muhammad Tahir Nisyani during the Mughal period. The special feature of Dr. Asif Riaz Qadir's book Classic Romantic Stories of Pakistan is that the texts of all the 12 stories included in it have been carefully, rather very well written, and an effort has been made to arrange historically correct texts by researching all the available texts in different languages. This quality makes this book universally authentic. Story of Umar Marvi. The story is more than 6 centuries old and dates back to the last decade of the 14th century. This was the period when the Sumra dynasty ruled the province of Sindh, Pakistan. A member of the same family, Umar was the ruler of southern Sindh, with its capital at Umerkot, a district of Sindh. Umar was a popular ruler and had all the qualities that a good ruler should have. He was intelligent, thoughtful, brave, fearless, and wise. Success after success followed in his rule. His justice was famous. He would listen to any complaints that came to his court and redress it. It was a sign of his generosity that no one returned empty-handed from his court. At that time, Malia was famous in the Thari region. Although the desert was spread all over Thari and the sand was visible all around, but the part of Malia was very green and lush. People here were happier and more prosperous than in other areas. There was a village called Talhu in the area of Malia, inhabited by the people of the Maru tribe. These people had migrated from Kathiawar, Gujarat, India, and had taken up permanent residence there. They had been living there for generations. They were mostly farmers, which was their source of livelihood. There was also a man named Palina in Talha village who owned a small piece of land in which he used to cultivate subsistence of his family. Palina's wife's name was Madhui and their daughter's name was Marvi. Although Marvi was born into a poor family, her beauty was such that there was no other beautiful girl in the area. Palina and his wife worked hard and cultivated their fields to support themselves. One day they met a boy named Foag. The Palina asked him, "Who are your parents and where have you come from?" In response, the boy replied with tears in his eyes, "I have no one in this world. I am an orphan and helpless." The Palina and his wife felt sorry for the boy. They thought that if he was helped, he would find a place to live and we would have support. He will help us in our work and thus lighten our burden. With this in mind, they kept him in their house and he began to live there as a member of the family. As Marvi grew older, the talk of her beauty grew. Her village was a small place, but nowhere in the whole of Malia was a beautiful girl like her. That is why all the youth of Mara nation had her in their hearts and everyone wanted to marry Marvi. Since Foag lived in Marvi's house, he was close to her. He was also grown up now. So, he also wanted to marry Marvi, but he could not bring his desire to his tongue. He realized that the Palina had supported him in times of trouble, and he might feel bad about it. On the other hand, he also had the misconception that Marvi liked him. Since they lived in the same house, Marvi often laughed and talked to him, which led to the misconception that she might be inclined towards him. He often thought, "That's exactly what Marvi wants." He fell in love with Marvi and his love increased with time, even though it was never in Marvi's imagination. Since they had been living in the same house for years, Marvi treated him as a member of the family, but he was under the impression that Marvi liked him. He was unaware that Marvi has been engaged since childhood. Palina had engaged her to his nephew Ket, thus, according to the custom, she had become his wife. Foag kept thinking about Marvi and making plans in his heart. Finally one day he took the opportunity to talk to Palina about Marvi's relationship and said, "I assure you, I will love Marvi more than my own life." "But how can that be?" Palina was a little shocked and then explained. That's right, you are a member of our family and you are dear to me, but you may not know that Marvi's relationship had been established in childhood. She is engaged to my nephew Ket, and will marry him. Foag was very disappointed to hear that. The imaginary palaces he had built suddenly fell into pieces. He was so disappointed that his heart skipped a beat. Then his frustration turned into revenge. Burning with jealousy, he said to himself, if Marvi can't marry me, then she cannot marry Ket either. He planned and thought in his heart for a few days. Sometimes, a trick would come to his mind, then he would start thinking of another way. Thinking like this, one day, he suddenly became happy and said to himself, that's fine. That's fine. An idea came to his mind which he himself agreed to. He got up immediately and sneaked out of his village. Then he turned to Umerkot and walked towards it. In Umerkot, Umar was surrounded by his ministers and nobles. He was telling them about things needed to be taken care of in order to run the affairs of the kingdom, and how the ruler should take care of his subjects. He was sitting among his courtiers saying that just as no wall can last long without lime and mud, so no empire can last long without justice. Therefore, a ruler should never give up justice, people will respect and love him for that. He added that a good ruler should always avoid oppression and tyranny. Not only that, he must fight against all forms of abuses so that people could live in peace and harmony. He exhorted his ministers and advisers that those who have power and authority should set an example for others to encourage the oppressed and the helpless. They should keep their doors open for the poor and the needy at all times. He was busy talking and giving instructions to his companions that one of the servants came and asked, "Respected sir, a stranger has come from Malia area who wants to meet you." Umar thought, of course, there must be someone in distress. Therefore, while ordering, he said, "The young man should be brought before us. We will surely be happy to help him." As soon as the order was received, the servant went out and a few moments later brought Foag with him. Foag bowed with great politeness and performed etiquettes, on which Umar judged him from head to toe and asked, "Young man, tell me, what do you have to say? We are all listening to your problem." In response, Foag bowed and said, "Respected sir, I want to say something in solitude." On hearing this, Umar asked the ministers and nobles to leave the court and then said, "Say it now, young man. What do you want?" Foag folded his hands and said, "Respected sir, I did not come to ask for anything or for any help. I have brought good news which you will surely be happy to hear." "We didn't understand what you meant," Umar asked in surprise. "Excellency, there is a village in the lush area of Malia called Talha where the people of Maru tribe live. One of these people is Palina, who has a daughter named Marvi, who is endowed with such beauty by nature that even the moon is ashamed to confront her. She is second to none in beauty. God has given such a proportion in her character and stature that the beholder cannot take his eyes off her. When she smiles, flowers bloom in her face, and when she walks, the peacock forgets to walk. Her body is like a carved stone. Apart from human beings, even angels would be amazed if they will see her." He was drawing a sketch of Marvi's beauty and youth, and Umar was listening to him carefully and enthusiastically. As Foag lengthened his talk, Umar's interest grew. His curiosity was growing every moment and he was eager to know the purpose of this introduction. On the other hand, seeing that Umar was more interested than necessary, Foag carried on his flowery praise for Marvi, but Umar spoke in the middle of it. "But you haven't told us yet who she is." In response, Foag said, "Respected sir, she is the daughter of a poor farmer and her name is Marvi. Young people all over Malia area dream of her. If you look at her, her life would be better, otherwise, this moon would be lost forever. The eclipse will start. If she joined your personal life, the royalty of your palace would be even more glorious." Umar, who had recently been urging his ministers and associates for justice and principles of peace, had forgotten everything after hearing the story of Marvi's beauty. At that moment, he remembered nothing but Marvi. Phoag had spoken of Marvi's beauty and youth in such a way that Umar was eager to see her. Phoag, on the other hand, seeing his target softened, said softly, "Sir, Marvi was born only to adorn your palace." Umar was really anxious to see Marvi at that time. He was thinking in his heart that no one had told him about that unique beauty before that day. He did not know that there was a diamond among his subjects that could illuminate him. At first, he was anxious to see her, but then he was planning to get her. He was lost in silent thoughts for a while, and then looking at Phoag said, "Tell us, how to get to Marvi." "Respected sir. Come with me. I will take you there." Umar agreed to go with him. He prepared 2 very fast and powerful camels and took Phoag with him to the village of Talhu in Malia area. The village of Marvi was 100 kilometers from Umerkot. It was already morning when the two arrived there. As they approached their destination, Umar stopped near a hill at a short distance from the village. He thought, it would not be appropriate for him to go to the village, lest people should recognize him and he should be disgraced that the ruler had come so far for the sake of a poor girl. Thinking that, he stopped his camel on the hill and surveyed the surrounding area. He could see the village clearly. He inquired from Phoag, "I think Marvi should be picked up. What do you think?" In response, Phoag said quickly, "You are right, sir. It would be better to pick up Marvi. But how to pick her up? I don't want to go to the village." On this, Phoag said, "Marvi comes to the well outside the village every day to fetch water with her friends. In my opinion, this may be the right opportunity for this job." Umar liked Phoag's suggestion and came down from the hills, and waited for the time when Marvi would come with her friends to fetch water from the well outside the village. Marvi used to come daily to fetch water from the well, accompanied by many other girls, as drinking water was needed in every household and this task was entrusted to the girls. Men used to work and older women did the housework. It wasn't long before that they saw 2 girls at the well, one of whom was Marvi. What actually happened was that today Marvi got up early in the morning. She thought she would go alone instead of waiting for her friends. By this time, the other girls in the village were not ready to go with her. However, on the way one of her friend met her. So now there were 2 girls at the well. Phoag identified Marvi from a distance because he did not want to go near. If he had been closer, Marvi would surely have recognized him and Umar's plan would have been thwarted. So he told Umar, "Get closer. This is a good opportunity. Marvi has only one friend today." Umar thought for a moment, but Phoag immediately continued, "It's not right for me to go there. If I go with you, they will recognize me. You go alone and don't be late, otherwise, it will be difficult for you if other friends come too." "You're right. I have to go alone." Umar said so and walked towards the well. On the other hand, when the 2 friends saw the camel rider, Marvi got a little frightened and said to her friend, "I don't know who is coming. It is better that we go back to the village and come with other friends." But her friend laughed and said, "You are very timid. You must have been frightened to see the man. The poor fellow would be a traveler, who will pass by. At best, he will ask you to give him water. What is there to be afraid of?" This encouraged Marvi and she became satisfied. They had just filled the pitchers with water when Umar reached there on a camel. When his eyes fell on Marvi, he turned into a stone for a few moments. She was even more beautiful than the figure drawn by Phoag. He had no idea that Marvi could be so beautiful. When he saw her, he bet his life for her, got down from the camel and stood and stared at her. Her limbs were getting lost in her heart. Marvi saw him as an idol and asked, "Passerby, why are you looking at me like that? Who are you?" Umar was shocked at this. He approached her and said in a pleading tone, "I am a tired traveler and have come a long way. I am thirsty. If you would give me a sip of water, you will be kind." In response, Marvi picked up the pitcher without saying a word and tilted it to pour the water. But Umar hurried forward and held her in his arms. She screamed and made noise, but Umar, as fast as lightning, put her on his camel and jumped himself. Marvi kept screaming. He covered her face with a cloth and silenced her. At the same time, he tied Marvi tightly so that she could not jump and run away. Marvi tried her best, hitting with hands and feet, calling for help, but all in vain. Her friend also screamed and then, saving her life, left the pitcher and ran towards the village. "Run, run, save me, save me." She ran towards the village screaming. Umar, on the other hand, did all this so quickly and suddenly that Marvi was helpless. She could do nothing but shed tears because her hands were tied and she herself was tied with ropes. Umar was happy with his success. He ran the camel fast towards Umerkot so that he could cover the distance of as many kilometers as he could. He didn't even see her well in the chaos. Arriving at Umerkot, Umar kept Marvi in the palace as if she had been imprisoned. She was not allowed to go anywhere because of the danger of her fleeing. Great care was taken for her comfort and no effort was spared in humility for her sake. Umar ordered Marvi should be dressed in royal clothes. But Marvi flatly refused to wear royal attire, saying, "Let me stay in my old clothes. I will not wear royal clothes." Umar was informed that Marvi was not ready to change her clothes. He was also told that since she came, she is crying and has made herself miserable. She did not eat, drink, or talk. Umar had appointed slaves to serve her who were taking care of her in every way, but the trouble was that her cries was not stopping. The servants explained it in their own way, but to no avail. What could she do? That night when Umar went to the palace, he saw that Marvi was in a strange state. Her hair were disheveled and her eyes were swollen with tears. He reassured her with great affection. "What's the use of crying like this? Now you will have to live in this palace. You will become my queen and live a life of luxury." Marvi, who was already crying, burst into tears at Umar's remark. She was sobbing badly. Umar thought that he might be tempted, so he said, "I promise you that I will fulfill your every wish. You will be the chief of other queens in this palace and will play in jewels." He tempted her to prefer royal luxury to a life of poverty, but his words had no effect on Marvi. She sat and sobbed, listened to him, and did not speak even when he was called. Then when he spoke, she only said, "I have no interest in you and your palace. I prefer the life of poverty in my village. I have a relationship with Ket. He is my fiancé and I will marry her. My life without Ket is useless. Please take me back to my village." Then she folded her hands in front of Umar and spoke, "You have promised to fulfill my every wish. My first and last wish is to take me to my village Malia. I will be happy there." Umar thought that since she had just arrived and she was sad for having left her parents and homeland, she would recover automatically after a few days. She will forget her parents too, but this was his delusion. Marvi was ruining herself day and night by remembering her parents, farm, and village. No doubt Umar fell in love with her, giving her the lure of luxurious life and jewels, but Marvi hated him every moment. For Marvi, diamonds, expensive royal attire, lavish life, and luxury of the palace was nothing. Marvi always desired, "I like my old and modest clothes more than royal attire. The wild flowers of Thar are more desirable than the royal foods. There is much more comfort and serenity in the grass huts and mud houses of my village than the magnificent palaces. I should be taken to my village in Maru's clothes. I would like to stay there." When Marvi could not fall in love with the lure of luxury and jewels and no one could control her, Umar thought, it will not work gently, she should be treated harshly. He taunted her and said in a harsh tone, "You are the daughter of a poor farmer, and you are engaged to a poor shepherd. I offer you the royal life of luxury. Tell me, do you like this royal life, or do you like living in poverty in the village?" In response, Marvi said with full confidence and fearlessness, "O king, it is believed that your treasures are full of wealth. But I prefer my humble hut in which we live as we want." Then she went on to say, "Congratulations to you on the life of this magnificent palace and jewels. We are that type of women who get married once, and I am married to a farmer. Now I can't belong to anyone else. My life and death is with Ket, that is Maru, and he is just like us." Thus, when Umar realized that he could not tame Marvi in any way, he imprisoned her in a room, chained and subjected to various hardships, but Marvi remained true and firm. She endured all the difficulties with great patience and perseverance. She did not try to stain her chastity just for the sake of her luxury. She was convinced that those days of trouble would not last long, and in the end the troubles would end and she would be reunited with her loved ones. With this hope, she faced all kinds of troubles and spent her days in forced labor. Thus a year passed. During this time, once Ket met Marvi. When Umar kidnapped Marvi, her friend went home and told her father Palina and mother Madui that Marvi had been forcibly taken away by the ruler of Umerkot. Hearing that, both of them lost their lives. What could the poor do? At first, they intended to go to Umerkot and complain, but then they became silent, thinking that when the ruler himself had taken her away, then who would they go to and complain to? Don't let any more trouble happen to our daughter. Then they realized that it might change their daughter's life. If she lived with them, she would spend her life in poverty and misery like us. With this in mind, they changed their mind about going to Umerkot and did not try to rescue her in the hope of a better future, but Marvi's fiancé did not give up. He said, "I will definitely go to Marvi. She is my fiancé." One day he disguised himself as a beggar and walked towards Umerkot. Once there, he thought it necessary to make a place for himself before finding Marvi. There was an old man's monastery outside Umerkot. Ket pitched his tent there, moved like a beggar, and reached the royal palace where Marvi was imprisoned. He went to the door of the palace and shouted for charity and looked around to see Marvi. It was his good fortune that Marvi looked up and saw Ket in the guise of a poor man. She had not seen anyone from her tribe for a year, and that too her lovely Ket. So, she was very happy. She watched from above and Ket saw her too. Their eyes widened and a wave of new life ran through them. Marvi made one of his sympathetic maids her confidant and sent alms to the poor man with a message that, "Be content, dear Ket. I am yours and will remain yours. My loyalty will not be affected. You go back and encourage your father and mother. God willing, we will meet soon." At the same time, the rainy season had set in, which aroused in Marvi's heart the grief of separation from her family. Because it usually rained in that season and area of Malia would become green and lush. When she remembered that beautiful time, she was overwhelmed and cried a lot. That night, when Umar came to her, she said to him, "I have a wish. I hope you will fulfill it." As soon as he heard this, Umar was happy in his heart that Marvi may agree. He quickly asked, "I will fulfill your every wish. Tell me, what is your wish?" Marvi folded her hands in tears and said, "I may not be able to go to Malia in my life now, and I will die here in agony. I request you to take my body to my village Talhu in Malia after my death, so that at least after my death I can meet the lovely soil of my homeland." She said this crying and fell unconscious with hiccups. At that time, her condition was getting so pitiable that even Umar himself felt sorry for her. He was so affected that he forgot all lust, and a feeling of human sympathy awoke in his heart. He began to think he was unjustly cruel to that helpless girl. He immediately apologized to Marvi and said, "Marvi, I am ashamed of what I have done to you so far, and I apologize to you for that. You are a virtuous and chaste girl. And from today you are my sister." He then immediately sent a messenger to Marvi's relatives and sent them a message. "I have your daughter Marvi, and she is like my sister. You people can come and take her with you." When the Muras received this message from Umar, they became a little skeptical. They said to each other, "Of course this is a trick of the Umar. He is deceitfully calling us to punish." They sent a man to Umerkot to confirm that Umar was really calling or cheating them. When the man returned and assured them that his intentions were good, they sent a few men to Umerkot. Umar greeted them with great respect. He humbled himself before them and sent Marvi away with them. When they left, he also gave a lot of money and wealth so that they could marry her in a big way with Ket. Thus Maru happily took Marvi with them to her village. Marvi came back a year later. Everyone in the house was happy, but her fiancé Ket looked a little suspicious, because Foag said in a whispering manner in the Ket's ear, "How is it possible that Marvi remained imprisoned for a year and she is still chaste?" Seeing the mood of Ket, Marvi reassured him and said, "I came back as pure as I had gone." Not only that, but she also described the sufferings and difficulties that she had to endure in order to maintain her chastity, but a seed of doubt had been sown in the heart of the Ket. He couldn't believe it. He was thinking, how is that possible? She's been with another person for a year. Then how can she be chaste? However, the heart of Ket was not moving. In no way was he willing to believe her. On the other hand, somehow Umar also came to know that Maras were doubting Marvi's chastity. He thought that it was happening because of him, so he should help her at that point. He said, "It could damage Marvi's life as well as tarnish my good reputation." He prepared to attack the Maru tribe and then marched towards Malia. Arriving there, he besieged Malia, which caused chaos among the Maras and they began to prepare for battle. The situation was very worrying for the old folk who went to Umar to find out from him why he had besieged them. Umar replied, "Your attitude towards Marvi may bring me into disrepute." Marvi could not remain silent on that occasion. She approached Umar and said, "Respected sir, we the poor are among your subjects. You are wise. Decide for yourself whose fault it is." Then she explained her point. "You kept me imprisoned in your palace for a year. In that case, who can believe in my chastity? The suspicion of Ket is natural. It is your fault that you kept a stranger girl with you for a year. You did not even inform my family." Hearing this from Marvi, Umar regretted what he had done. Her words had a profound effect on him and he looked very remorseful. Addressing Marvi's parents and others present, he said, "I am of course guilty of keeping Marvi in my palace for so long, but I assure you, she is very virtuous and chaste. I have made her my sister and I swear that she is chaste." He added, "If you do not believe me, you can test me. I am ready for any kind of test." At this point, Marvi hurried forward and said, "I have been accused. So the trial must be mine. This is a matter of my chastity and I will prove it." At that time it was decided to heat an iron rod in the burning fire until it turns red and then place the rod on Marvi's palm. If she was chaste, she would not be harmed, and if she was a liar, her palm would burn. This proposal was accepted by all. The red-hot iron was put on her palm but Marvi was not harmed as she was really chaste. The red rod on her hand looked like a flower. Everyone was convinced that Marvi is telling the truth, she is chaste. But despite the fact that everyone was convinced of her purity, she said, "I'll go through even a bigger test." So she lit a huge fire and passed through it many times, but the fire did not damage even her clothes. Umar was so affected by this that he too jumped into the blazing fire to prove his integrity. He too passed through the flames without fear or danger. Now there was no room for any doubt. Her parents hurried forward and hugged her. And then in a few days, with great fanfare, she got married to her Ket, the beloved partner.